Here's a look at the odds to win the inaugural Walter Cup, powered by FanDuel. Toronto and Montreal have already clinched a playoff spot entering the final week of the season. 4 teams will make the playoffs. Ottawa and Boston are tied with 32 points each, but Ottawa has a game in hand. They play New York on Tuesday night. New York already eliminated from playoff contention. Joined once again by Cheryl Pounder. And Cheryl, we're entering the final week of the PWHL regular season. Last week, the league announced its list of awards for players, so we're going to ask you about some of your picks for the end of season trophies. Let's start between the pipes. Who's your goaltender of the year?
Well, these are tough, but my goaltender of the year is going to go to PWHL Toronto's Kristen Campbell. Listen, she didn't start off strong to start the season. 1 win in 5 games, and then went on an 11-game winning streak. That is right, an 11-game winning streak with PWHL Toronto, who are now sitting tied for first place. So you look at her and how pivotal she has been to get her team to this position. You look at her 20 starts. I look at her and I say she has been the best goaltender on the season. Of
course, we have to ask you about the Blue Liners. So who do you think is going to win Defender of the Year?
Well, there's a number of defenders that I looked at, but I kept coming back to Boston's Megan Keller. I mean, she is just a great transitional skater, but it's what she does at both ends of the ice, playing over 25 minutes on average a game. So every time you look, this woman is on the ice, but she's not just defending where she gaps up and she closes quickly. She has an edge and a physical element to her game, but she's also jumping into the rush as well. She has 14 points and 50 shots on goal, and we use in absolutely every situation. So she was heavily relied upon for a 200-foot game to provide offense as well as defense.
All right, from the blue line, let's go behind the bench. Who's your pick for Coach of the Year?
I'm going with PWHL Montreal Corey Chevry as her first head coaching position in a professional environment. She really has made a difference. She is tied for first place with Toronto, but also when I look at her, I say, listen, she started with an open slate. You look at someone like Troy Ryan, had a number of players that he was completely familiar with, and she didn't have the strongest back end, but she's been able to put the pieces together to put her team into a position right now to vie for the first ever championship.
And finally, the big one, the Billie Jean King MVP award. Who do you have there?
Listen, it is so hard not to take Marie-Philippe Poulin, right? But I am taking Natalie Spooner for what she has done with Toronto. I mentioned their tough start to the year, but when they went on that winning streak, she had amassed 10 goals and 5 assists. So I do believe that she was the strength on that team. Listen, she wasn't taken as one of their top 3 players in free agency, but she has been their best player. Her and Kristen Campbell have been real difference makers, but she has found the back of the net. And I would say, for argument's sake, and there's a controversial question here, whether she is the best in the world in the paint. A lot of players are going to say, well, Hillary Knight in the paint, but Natalie Spooner in the paint with her 23 points and 16 goals. That is her coveted spot, and she has been an extreme difference maker for her team and a reason they are sitting atop of the standings.
It's been an awesome comeback story for Natalie Spooner. Finalists for these awards and more will be unveiled throughout the playoffs. The winners will be announced in June. Thanks, Cheryl. We've got more PWHL action for you tomorrow night. Ottawa looks to take another step towards clinching a playoff spot. They're taking on New York. Coverage begins 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on TSN.